Little Rose of Sharon, a story of self-sacrifice. Spring came to the newly made world, and every day a certain little rose grew more and more beautiful. Surely the Creator will be pleased with me, she hoped. As the color deepened in her petals, the little rose watched as the hills and valley of Sharon came to life. Daffodils grew on the hillside, almond trees bloomed full and white, and the sweet smell of myrtle blossoms filled the air. As the large green leaves on the fig tree above her danced gently in the breeze, the little rose looked up and saw a dove sitting on a nest made of twigs and grass. Inside the nest was a tiny white egg. While the mother dove flew over the hillside looking for seeds and nuts, the father dove sat on the egg and made soft cooing sounds. Someday, very soon, thought the little rose. Right there. The baby dove will hatch out of its egg. Early one morning, as the sun peeked over the eastern sky, the little rose saw the Creator. He was walking through the cool grass, looking at his trees and his flowers. Sometimes he would stop for a moment and listen to a bird's song, or sit in the shade of an olive tree and watch the sheep grazing on the distant hills. The little rose stood straight and tall and opened her petals as far as she could. She hoped the Creator would notice her as he walked by. Soon he came walking toward her. Surely the Creator will be pleased with me, with my beautiful petals, she thought happily. And then the Creator stood before her. For a long time he looked down at her deep red petals and smiled. Before he turned to go, he bent down and he breathed her sweet smell. The little rose felt her heart would burst with joy. He noticed me, she thought, and he smiled at me. Oh, truly, he must think I am beautiful. And later that evening, as she drifted off to sleep, the little rose was still remembering the smile of the Creator. Hello, little rose of Sharon. Cherry rose. During the night, a storm rolled in from the Mediterranean Sea. The wind howled through the trees, and the rain beat down on the shrubs and flowers. The little rose bent and swayed in the storm. She was frightened of losing her beautiful petals. As the rain beat against her, she held on with all of her strength. Finally, the storm ended, and when the morning light filled the sky, the little rose was pleased to see that none of her petals had fallen to the ground. But when she looked down, she saw a white shape on the ground below her. It was the tiny dove's eggs, nestled deep in the grass. It might have fallen out of the nest during the storm, she thought. Surely the mother and father dove will find it. She wanted to call out to them and tell them where the egg was laying, but she could only watch the doves fly back and forth for the egg, making sad and mournful sounds. Why do you think I put the word pleased here?
Why?
Do you think it said the little rose was proud, probably, to see that none of her petals had fallen to the ground? And you know what? Lots of times when you're young and you're beautiful, you are proud, right? But the Bible doesn't want us, the scriptures tell us not to be proud, right? But to say, this is my son in whom I'm well pleased. But she may have had pride. Maybe she wasn't humbled. All day the doves searched for the tiny egg, but they never saw it in the grass beneath the rose. And when the sky began to darken, the doves flew back to the branches of the fig tree. If the egg is not kept warm, the baby dove inside it will die, thought the little rose as the cool evening began to blow. She was sad to think that the baby dove might never break out of its shell and learn to fly. If only she could keep it warm. Do you think that I should correct myself? If it said, I said sometimes when you're young, The truth is sometimes when you're young, you've already been humbled. And sometimes when you're old, you're still full of pride. So, and it's just about learning a lesson of humility, right? The Spirit of God helping you is what it's really about. As the moon slowly rose in the sky, covering the earth with a sliver of light, the little Rose thought of the only way she could keep the egg warm through the chilly night. So one by one, she dropped her petal and covered the tiny white egg. When the last one fell, the rose petal blanket was complete. The little Rose fell asleep to the mournful cooing of the doves of the cooing. Early the next morning, the little Rose was wakened by tiny chirping sounds. What could it be, she wondered. Then she noticed the smallest movement beneath the fallen petals. Suddenly, a tiny dove's beak poked out from beneath the petals, and the baby dove, oh, she's alive, she thought with joy as the chirping grew louder. The mother and father heard the dove and flew down from the fig tree. The little Rose watched as they lifted their baby from the rose petals and carried it back to their nest. Later that morning, as the little Rose was listening to the gentle cooing of the doves, she saw the Creator walking on the hillside. Oh dear, she thought, I hope he doesn't notice me. Without my petals, I'm no longer beautiful. The little Rose was so ashamed. She looked down, but when the Creator stood before her, he gently reached out and he touched her stem. You have given all you had to save the life of a baby dove, said the Creator. And the little Rose felt warm inside at the sound of his voice. One day, when my son lives on earth, he too will give everything he has. The little Rose looked into the gentle eyes of the Creator. Because of the love you have shown for the baby dove, I will call my son the Rose of Sharon. For he too will give everything he has to show the world my love. Is this a true story? Is this how Yeshua became the Rose of Sharon? What do you think?
I don't think this is a
No,
true
it's
story.
not. So this came from somebody's imagination, which is fine as long as it doesn't contradict God's word, and it doesn't, right? So it's like a kind of like a little parable, right? So scriptures do call Yeshua the Rose of Sharon in the prophets. Okay. The Creator tenderly touched her stem once more as he walked on through the hillside, and the little Rose joyfully lifted her face to the warm light of the sun. What do you think? Was she ugly once she lost all her petals?
No.
Was she more beautiful than before?
Yeah.
Why?
Because you be kind.
Yeah.